Space, the final frontier. Space Station Ashland sits on the edge of Federation space with its companion ship, the USS Dilamus Christian. The space around them is full of mystery and strange wonders, where secrets are kept and danger lurks around every corner. The crew of the Dilamus Christian must navigate treacherous waters as they work to protect the Federation. But as they peer into the unknown, they will discover that the line between friend and foe is not always clear. They will be tested like never before and will face challenges that will push them to their limits. Join us on this adventure as we explore the farthest reaches of space and uncover the hidden truths that lie within the shadows. Tabletop Journeys presents Star Trek Preservations.
Welcome, travelers. This is Tabletop Journeys, and we are here today with Star Trek Preservations. We are here with a very special kind of episode. The beauty of playing role-playing games with your good friends sitting around the table or even at your local gaming store is that when you conclude a mission or conclude a session or an adventure, there can be any number of things that you want to do, people want to get into that don't quite so neatly fit into the next planned session. That's the way gaming is supposed to work. Not everything fits neatly into little boxes. The challenge for those who do actual plays is we are constantly trying to make things fit into neat little boxes. Someone once said the beauty of actual plays, you get to see the beautiful mess. And this is one of those episodes where we say, yep, the beautiful mess. Let's get that cleaned up a bit. Let's do that. And so that's why we're here today. At the conclusion of our last episode, which was awesome and had a lot of really good things dealing with some of the different investigations and challenges that the crew of the Dilamus Christian has been dealing with, there were things that needed to be handled before the next mission. So that's over here. A real quick session to talk through those things as players, GMs, and to do it at the table, in-game, throwing dice when need be. So before we get going, let us know what you think. See if we did okay on that. I'm going to introduce our crew, and I'm going to start right with the CEO of our hero ship. Take us away, Captain.
Yeah, thanks. Hi, everyone. I am Joe Harney, and I play Captain Sabian Tobor, the Joint Trill Commanding Officer of the USS Dilamus Christian, a Saber-class Federation starship.
I'm Adam Scaramella, and I portray Commander Ocean Chisilwer, the DC's Andorian First Officer.
Hi, I'm David Rideout. I play Lieutenant Commander Avidian Tanari, the Dilamus Christian's Andorian Engineering Officer. I want to warn all the players out there who play at Leonika's table, when he takes 3 threat, he's going to rickroll you. I also want to know, I know the secret. The DC's artificial intelligence behind all the purple lights and the machines that can destroy everyone on the ship is a Rick Astley video.
Curses! He figured me out.
Wow, how do I follow that? Hi, my name is Lacey Knutson, and I'm playing Dilamus Christian's Science Officer, Narella Nilan. And I'm still recovering from when Leonika said this is going to be a special episode, and I wasn't fully caught on what that means.
Oh, yeah, I think you have to have a certain amount of gray hair to really, truly gather that. Moving on to our episode, or this special part of the episode. Essentially, as our last episode concluded, the crew had lots of information that they wanted to follow up on. Each of the players has really come to me with things that they wanted to do to follow up on that information in the intervening time. The time frame of the last episode was 59495.2, which was, for those of us who are Earthers, June 30th, 2382. So we are about 2 weeks after that, in the middle of July, when this is coming to a head. Most of these have to do with our extended tasks, so there are things that have been taking place over and throughout that time period. Because it is an intervening period of time, for the purposes of GM may need to make things a little spicy, I am only going to do one threat per player for this little section. I'm going to start with our engineer because what he wanted to do during this time frame is really work on the ship sensors, and in case anybody else's work might need that to assist them, Lieutenant Commander Tanari. You are currently at a need of 17 on the progress track to get these internal ship sensors functioning to the degree you want. Your difficulty, as a reminder, is a 3, and your resistance is a 2. How would you like to proceed?
Okay, just to remind the listeners, this is getting the Epsilon sensors online for the internal sensors on the ship, because I believe we have them working on the external sensors.
That is correct.
All right.
Now, Dave, do remember, as a chief engineer, you can purchase the equipment of engineering teams for a discount of 1 less momentum, which turns the cost to 0 momentum.
Okay, thank you. So then I will then do that.
We don't have momentum at this point. So you have to get. Yep.
So the chief engineer role, from first edition to second edition, the role for chief engineer had a thing there where the one aboard ship you had your engineering teams as a trait, which made everything reduced by 1. But in order to clean it up in second edition, the Modifius team created this kind of new, I don't want to say new category, but they decided to fold stuff into the equipment and how equipment works, and you purchase equipment with momentum, and that equipment above beyond letting you do something lets you reduce the difficulty of it. Engineering teams being counted as not just like physical equipment, but
Gotcha.
like people as equipment.
Yep.
Like
Resources.
Engineering teams, medical team, and the chief engineer and chief medical officer's role ability is lets them get their associated teams for free when it makes sense.
Okay, gotcha. And and it reduces before it happens versus momentum spend that you have to start to initiate it. So I gotcha. All right. So you have the ability to leverage your engineering teams on your roll. As I said initially, you're at a difficulty of 3. You're at a resistance of 2. You have your engineering teams at your back. And how would you like to roll this fabulous being footage?
Okay, so remind me again of our progress.
So we are 3 on the work track at this point. And this is a season long, so there's not really an end. It is something that you would eventually be able to do. But the question is, will you get it done in a time of need, or will you get breakthroughs that offer certain benefits in a time of need at various points during the season, which is why it's important to do this as we go versus just say by season's end, you automatically have it. Because
Okay, so
this is where the time crunch comes in, because if something comes up and you needed it.
So we've had how many breakthroughs so far?
At this point, you're 3 on the progress track. The first breakthrough would happen at 10. So you have not had the breakthrough yet.
Okay. All right. So we will then, since we haven't had the first breakthrough yet, I will assume that we are still installing the hardware.
Okay.
Through the ship.
Sounds
and making
good.
the appropriate judgments. So then, since this is a physical task, I will assume that I will be doing control engineering.
Works for me.
It starts off with 2 dice. Now, the engineering team reduces that difficulty from 3 to 2, correct?
Yes.
Okay. I will buy an extra dice with a threat.
Okay.
And then go ahead and accept the success with procedural compliance. And we will be able to get a assist with the ship, correct?
That is correct.
So I have a 12 and a 5, so that's a total of 3 successes with procedural compliance.
We're looking at 1 momentum.
Dave,
so far.
what's your engineering rating?
Engineering 4, control 10.
Okay.
Oh, and Epsilon species detection focus, although I didn't get below my 4s.
All right. So in that case, Adam, would you be happy to roll for the DC? They're installing the hardware. I would say it would definitely be I'm thinking structure engineering, but let me make sure I didn't pick 2 attributes. And
No,
I did that.
It'd either be structures or sensors because you're working on the sensors, one of the two.
I would say sensors in this. The sensors is actually what's being fixed. So I'm going to go with structure because they're installing the hardware to create better sensors.
Sounds good. So we need a 13 or less, Adam.
Sounds good. That is a 2.
Excellent. And with the security of 4, that counts as a critical success. Looks like it's 5 successes, Lee.
5 successes out of 3, so that's 3 momentum.
With 1 bonus momentum because of intense.
Okay, so that's 4 momentum.
Okay, so let me go ahead and spend all 4 momentum for 2 more work.
Okay.
So that would be a total of 4.
Yep, that'll give you 4 work.
That puts us at 7, I believe.
Yep.
Okay.
The hardware is being installed. It's going through fairly well. The DC is not giving you any problems with this. DC themselves is pretty pleased with your work and actually gives some pointers to your crew. You've pretty much got it, but helps out the crew a little bit with pointers, little things in weird areas, like all of a sudden, like little lights will show up to highlight an area of a problem or a seal that might not have been complete or whatever, basically avoiding potential complications.
Sounds good.
Adam, you've had a lot going on, different things you've been working on. You had requested a meeting with some of the XOs and have been involved with trying to meet with them and trying to get the temperature of the room, so to speak, if I recall some of our initial conversations. In regards to that, you've got all of them collected. You have all the names listed. Is there anything particular you're looking to convey or questions? What's your approach to this situation?
So there is a piece of that I don't know about, and that is the question regarding what is the data packet? What did the data packets that were specifically for the, sorry, names.
Penumbra?
Yes, thank you. Currently there is, I obtained the information, the security packet that was intended for the Penumbra XO, who was not present in that session. The individual who brought the packets for all of the XOs, the individual who was, the name that person was given was Lieutenant Namirez.
Yes.
We're not entirely sure that this is a real person. This is potentially a name associated with Pritchard's aliases.
Yep. Previous operations kind of thing. So they were definitely interested in you specifically and wanted you to have that packet. As far as what's in it, the first question is, are you opening it and reading it while you're present, or is that something you're going to hold off to the side until after the meeting?
It would have been, I would not have done so during the meeting, the session, or during special, yeah. I would not read it during
XO meeting.
sort of XO meeting. I would make any reason, I would most likely say to the group that I had been asked to provide this to the XO myself. It wouldn't be a lie because I was given that information and clearly it was important that I was the one who saw that. So I would just indicate that I was told to bring this.
Okay. So once you do get a chance away from the group to look at that, there are several things that are in there, a lot to process that you wouldn't necessarily be able to process right away. Give me a roll. Difficulty is going to be a 2.
Okay.
And the reason why you're rolling is because it's a long series of information. This packet is actually a pad in an envelope. It's not like actual paperwork. There are just a ton of files. There are some indexes, and obviously things are code names to indicate levels of importance and things like that. But this is basically on a cursory breeze through to see what do I need, what really needs to grab my attention in this immediate moment kind of thing. Yeah, so difficulty 2, no extended complication range. How would you approach that, scanning that document for critical and immediate need kinds of information?
Think, well, obviously that's going to be security, but it is, I was thinking either insight or reason on this. Don't think it really makes too much of a difference because they're both the same for me, but just for the reference, I'm thinking it would be more of a research call. So if that's the case, then we don't have any momentum yet.
Not at this time, no.
Okay. I will buy a guy with the threat.
Okay. Leaves us at 6.
I think for the focus, I'd be leveraging the clandestine in operations.
Okay. Absolutely.
Okay. So that is 3 brief successes. So that would be an additional momentum that I would have to use for additional information to be gathered immediately. But the other one I'll probably bank for somebody else.
Okay. Yep. So what you're able to pick out for critical pieces of information that are of immediate need is there are multiple files that relate to specific activities of Ebony Knox. They weren't known to be Ebony Knox when they're there, but basically information that you and the DC crew have been collecting over the past year. Pritchard has filtered that with other investigations he was aware of, and then said, these fingerprints match these other things. So giving you a big benefit to future Ebony Knox investigations because you now have a much wider scope and understanding of their overall operations and can get better at closing in on that organization. In short form, it's going to reduce resistance on the work tracks for Ebony Knox investigations by 1. That's the most immediate takeaway. The second takeaway is that this is information that Pritchard set up as a fail-safe. He always planned for if something happened to him, whatever that may be, that he would have the ability to get you all information if he hadn't been able to meet with you personally when that took place. And so among the critical fail-safe issues is he made sure that the Dilamus Christian staffing was up to speed before. Like he had closed out some assignments as you were all being brought in for that dog and pony show that was your questioning at the end of last season. So he saw that coming and he didn't know where it was going to land. So he made sure that you got staffed up. Now, that does indicate that he had an inkling that Najjar was going to be being reassigned. So there may have been some forethought there. That's something you'll have to dig in and do more detail if you are interested. Finally, he's fairly clear about indicating the ROC is exceptionally separated from the regional command group. So the folks who are in charge of Ashland Station are a totally different reporting structure than the ROC who is investigating you. His problems are with the ROC. They're the ones that were coming for him, not the other group. So he's just clear about you need to watch out for the ROC, not the people who are in command. They may not be in the know, but they're not our threat. And he said that is an initial assessment. More investigation needs to be held. But that's also why he pushed to have Najjar be considered for an ROC position so that he might be in a position to be an inside man for the DC if need be.
Okay, forgive me. What does ROC stand for?
Regional Operation Command?
Yes, ROC is part of Starfleet Investigations, whereas the Regional Command Group, which is in charge of all the ships in your group, and Aslan Station, and responsible for making nice with all the other folks, that is part of standard Starfleet. Basically, Starfleet Investigations put an office inside of Aslan Station. Aslan Station, Pritchard could not say no. And Starfleet Investigation is in the hen house.
So just so that I can make sense of that, makes your heads or tails of this, the Starfleet investigation team is different than the group that is the regional command of the current area?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. It's basically like the CIA put an office in an embassy. That is actually, that is exactly what you're looking at. You have the CIA inside the embassy. The embassy is not allowed to say no.
Okay.
You had been working on various Ebony Knox investigations. You have a pair of extended tasks that were leading in that direction. Specifically, you had a team that provided you information through contacts at Deep Space K7, which allowed you to track a specific Ebony Knox vehicle that was caught and stopped from delivering a dangerous payload to K7, but they did escape. They actually, that crew, that Aegis team, saved the people at the expense of capturing the bad guy. But that crew, one of the members of that particular away team, did get a lot of specific details, which basically opens up the investigation on where that Ebony Knox vehicle came from. It was done by a very specific, it's a custom ship, and it was built at Saltec 4, your home. But he has all the information so that you'll be able to trace it and get to whoever built it, which could lead, in fact, to who they built it for. Yep.
So they were, what were they delivering? This was the delivery that we went to on on the space station, or was that something that the Aegis group did?
That's something the Aegis group did. So
Okay.
this Ebony Knox vessel was delivering basically a gas, which was designed to break down some peace talks that were taking place on that station. The Aegis team got wind of it, no pun intended, put a stop to it. Some lives were in jeopardy in that process. They ended up saving those lives, but the bad guys did get away.
Okay.
And then the other investigation that you had going simultaneously was from a different Aegis team, which got you some info leading to a specific suspect who's known to be somewhere in the Badlands, rooting around former Maquis colonies or bases, secreted locations, things of that nature. In this 2-week period, you have a choice as to which of those two investigations you'd like to begin. From a point of difficulty, the Badlands investigation is the more complex and difficult of the two.
I think I would be more interested in trying to chase down the one that's going on in the Badlands.
Okay. So with this particular investigation, you have a work track that is 16, you have a difficulty that is 3, and you have a resistance that is 1. You have the suspect's description in that they're humanoid, but because of technology, there's no confirmation of their specific species. You have their relative height, but again, because of technology, who knows exactly how accurate that might be. But what you do know is they have a specific signature disruptor, and they do operate with a pair of blades. The word is they prefer when they're in conflicts to deal with melee combat, and they seem to operate with both an Ushan and a Klingon knife, the one that splits in three, like the Klingon commander had in Star Trek 3. I can never remember the name of that particular weapon, but they tend to use both of those, and they're known to be very good. So this person is likely to be an assassin based on what you know so far. And you know that they are held up in the Badlands, and if they're able to be taken alive, they would likely have information that can help you narrow in on Ebony Knox as a whole.
Okay.
And so how would you approach that investigation, if that's where we're starting?
I think this would be a matter of looking at this from the perspective of trying to track down where their resources are coming from. Which of the various contacts or individuals that we've dealt with before are either not present, or they seem to be picking up jobs that they might be, knowing if the folks that we would normally checking out. I'm not looking to approach them directly or try to chase them down directly, because they're likely too good for that. Instead, I'm going to be trying to look at this from an indirect sort of point of view.
Okay. In that particular case, I could definitely see that as a second here. I can definitely see that again as an insight security kind of role, because you're looking to intuit where they're getting the jobs for, who can help me narrow this down so we can then execute some information. From a legal standpoint, what you have is an investigation without a crime, technically. So also picking up on any potential crimes that they may have done to facilitate getting a warrant might be important as well as part of this process. In fact, your first breakthrough, when you get to that point, that's what that would be. That would be, you got a judge's ear, a JAG's ear, who's willing to get you a warrant to go after this person. At that point, you just have to get the confirmation of where they're located. You're literally gathering the info to get the warrant to go after this person.
All right. If that's the case, so this is an extended challenge, so it wouldn't require a difficulty. It's more I'm trying to get a certain number of successes eventually.
Each roll has a difficulty. So in this case, the difficulty is 3. If you get 3, you have succeeded. You then take your department score. That is the work done less resistance. So this has a resistance of 1. So if you've got 5 in security, you will do 4 work on the track if you get a success.
Okay, so I have a 13. I'm going to spend the momentum that I had just picked up, which will give me a potential reroll. And I think this will also fall under the same focus.
Okay.
That is a 7. I need better dice. Is 3 successes.
You have succeeded, and your department score, I assumed, was a 5. Is that accurate?
That is correct.
All right, so you've done 4 work, unless you have any other expenditures you would like to put in.
No, not at this point.
So
This is something I'm going to be doing relatively conservatively, just because of the facts that these are people that are probably capable of disappearing if I try going too quickly.
Sure. And in full disclosure, the complication would be you have tipped your hand. So if you are in a situation where you roll a complication, that means they know you're coming in some fashion, and they may start to take actions accordingly. As long as you don't roll a complication involved in this investigation, they're not going to know you're looking. So that's where caution is important. And there may be times they even allow you to increase the difficulty to basically purchase some insurance versus complication in that case. With that, you spent the 2 weeks digging in. You're not so much closer to that location, but you are collecting or viewing evidence which seems to be connected for more work on the track, and you will have crossed all the I's, dotted all the T's to confirm that your target is the person of interest for these other actual crimes as well. And so then you can go from there.
Sounds good.
All right. We're going to go to our captain. Assuming that your XO let you know that you have new personnel coming in about 2 weeks, there's a couple things on your plate. You have the investigation that we talked about, where you want to look into the past, the quality, and the trustworthiness of your new bosses. Additionally, you have new personnel that's coming on board. You do have information that they were sent by Pritchard, but they are new personnel. And you may also wish to look into them if you wanted to. How would you like to proceed during this 2 weeks? What's the focus of your non day to day captaining adventures or actions?
Yeah, so the first part of it is going to be I'm going to have a conversation with Chizilrer when he gets back from the XO meeting for him and I to compare notes. I'll let him know that Tanari and Nilan found, while working through separate systems on Aslan Station, Nilan found a weird astrographic drift file, and Tanari found this broken subroutine, and that when we went out to the science platform where the Penumbra was supposed to be docked, we were able to find the original file and plug that into the subroutine, and it generated a hidden voice note from Pritchard saying that if he's pushed out, it's likely that it's the Ebony Knox doing all this nonsense, and that they've been acting in this weird quasi-Federation role out here, and to be careful as he continues to further his investigations, but likely that he's been pushed out.
I will also point out the information that I've recently gathered specifically about the fact that part of Najar's transfer seems to have had be planned as well.
So the main thing I wanted to discuss with you, Commander, is how should we proceed from here? Because this new fleet captain, Toreo, who is now an intermediary between Vice Admiral Tovek and the rest of us, all of my notes and contacts and people I've been talking to says that this Toreo is a by the book, straight and narrow, dare I say, boring and predictable element. The thing I am weighing is if the Ebony Knox is really operating in a fashion that they can get Pritchard kicked out, not only removed from command, but essentially forced to go into semi-retirement. Whoever is coming in after it, to me, logically seems that they would have an equal hand on putting their thumb on the scale of who's going to then be in charge of this area of space. And is this the new fleet captain? Is he merely a ignorant patsy, someone who they think will just be predictable by the book, that they can run circles around? Or is it too good to be true, his reputation, and he's actually involved with this consortium that involves Bragoff and the Ebony Knox and everything that seems to be moving around behind the scenes out here. And the same goes true with the Vice Admiral. And essentially, do we follow the book and report all of this stuff to the new fleet captain? Everything we've found and suspected and been working on that we had Pritchard in the loop on, do we loop him in or do we cut him off? He strikes me as an individual that if we don't, we have one opportunity to prove that we are, I don't want to say by the book, but if we hold this information back, it will permanently damage his opinion of us as officers.
So I'm clearly bouncing this around in my head. I'm not sure we know yet. We can't just close the door on any information that we share. We needed to make sure that we included them in the discovery of the subspace weapon ship,
which we have not done yet either. We left the ship in orbit around X19464. I had sent a subspace communication to Pritchard through my back-channeled clandestine channel, because again, the results after the Battle of Aslan Station, where the possibly compromised elements of Starfleet intelligence swooped in, took all the subspace stuff, and have gone off with it, nary to be heard from ever again. And Tovek and Toreo have shown no interest or concern. That's a problem. And whether that's they just believe Starfleet's going to do the right thing, or if they're actually involved with this consortium, I have not been able to, and I do not think I can make such a determination without tipping them off. And if there's one thing in my 300 years of life, is that your boss gets pretty ticked off at you if you accuse them of being criminals without hard evidence.
Let's think about it. If we were to turn over the ship, what's the danger?
Any clues or information we can find from it goes beyond our grasp and is just buried by Janok and his whoever he reports to.
Are we going to be able to hide that ship and get any information out of it?
We're the only ones who knows where it is right now.
Until someone else happens to fly by it.
That's why we picked a unmarked, unnamed, untraveled, uninhabited, random star system. It's a needle in a haystack.
What's more valuable to us then? And I
wasn't even thinking about the ship at this point. I'm simply thinking of telling him about the message we found from Pritchard. I was going to save the ship for later.
Oh, okay. Because I was thinking about whether or not we should share that we have stowed the ship because of the scenario that we do not know.
And honestly, I was thinking of it in like a staging thing, because the first stage would be tell him about that, and then if he reacts, be like, okay, this is what we've been doing these last 2 years, following Bragoff and the Ebony Knox and all this stuff. And then if he's then on board with that. Then we're like, and then we recovered the missing subspace ship. I was gonna gatekeep our intelligence as much as we could.
Gentlemen, I'm going to cut in right at this point. I'm going to spend 2 threat here.
All right.
And in this moment, as you're having this conversation, you get a small beep. I assume you're in your ready room or in your private quarters. I'm not sure which, but please let me know which.
The ready room's fine.
Okay. An audible beep, you both hear it, and you've got a little unread message on your workstation.
Cue it up to read.
And it's a written message that says, I was working on a few things here when you came in to have your discussion, and I am ashamed to say I did not excuse myself before you began speaking. Given the nature of your discussions, Captain, would you prefer I do something like secure the room for Epsilon Protocol?
I appreciate the offer, DC, but you're as much of a part of our crew as anyone else. I value your insight and opinion as much as I do Commander Chizilrer. If you've got some insight you may wish to share, I'm sure the commander and I are more than open to it.
Again, I apologize. I have had a few conversations with Lieutenant Nealon, who has expressed some dismay at some liberties I've taken over the past few months, and I seek to improve my professionalism, I think is one of the words she may have used. I might be paraphrasing, but I think that's pretty close to what she was referring to. With apologies for interrupting and being in a conversation I was not invited to, I would say that maybe you could serve both wolves. Perhaps you could do detailed scans, gather at least the base or bulk amount of information you possibly can, and then and tell the fleet captain anyway. You then get to observe what they do with the information. That will answer that question, but at the very least, you're not left with no information towards your investigation.
I think that's where we were headed. We were just deciding whether or not to tell him, and feign they were just unsubstantiated rumors. I wanted to bring something more. I didn't want to bring it to waste your time and attention until I had something more solid. Or, hey, we've heard this, we found this. What's your thoughts on it? How would you like us to proceed? Go from there. And then, as Ocean has mentioned, we're already out of bounds, hiding the existence of the Talarian ship with the subspace weapon. We should have reported that up the chain of command. If Pritchard was still in command, I would have. And thus my dilemma. And the further the time scale between when I report this and the larger the breach of trust will be, and the more irreparable any damage will come from it. I can easily say to him right now, I can say, I believe subspace transmissions were compromised. The enemy did this. I waited till I got back to Astelin to tell you. But now we're back. And if I don't, that credibility of that line will stretch to beyond reasonable.
Given that, it sounds like you have about 2 weeks or so to maybe a month at most to sort out that decision.
I think it's lesser than that. I think we either tell him now or we assume he is not involved with Ebony Knox and tell him now, or we assume he is compromised and tell him nothing.
That is not for me to decide. But if you let me know what your decision is, I'll make sure that whatever needs to be done to support your official statements is done, sir.
I appreciate that, DC. Thank you.
If you excuse me, I believe I was scheduled to watch a video There's a movie series that they're playing in holodeck 2. Several of the security crewmen think it's a fun one. They call it, it's from Old Earth, Terminator, they said.
Let me know how you like it.
Certainly. Have a good day, sir. And then, boop.
Thoughts, Commander?
So after after they disconnect, I will look at the captain. On a related note, I'm planning on conducting some standard personnel reviews with DC for a number of reasons. So, treating him like any other member of the crew.
Support that wholeheartedly. But to the matter at hand, need to weigh the risk of bringing in the new fleet captain. The longer we wait, the more difficult, to the point of impossibility, it will be, especially from everything I've gathered, he is by the book. The official story is he's the 180 degrees of Pritchard. And don't get me wrong, the book exists for a very good reason. It covers 90% of most situations. But as you and I know, the galaxy is way too complicated and nuanced and messy for any book to cover. And some people are more comfortable with that than others, and he seems to be of the latter. I've actually heard him be described internally as anti-Pritchard, to come in and clean things up. And so whether or not we can trust him, whether that he's, like I said, just been maneuvered, or whether it's completely benign, Ebony Knox had nothing to do with his assignment, or they put their thumb on the scale because they thought he was sufficiently by the book that they could operate their criminal enterprise with less interference than someone like Pritchard could and had been doing. Or is it possible? It is always possible that he is compromised in one or more ways, and that Ebony Knox has their hooks in him, and that's why he's here to look the other way and use protocol and procedure and bureaucracy and red tape to ignore what they are doing.
So at this point, you kind of laid out your options as far as what you have to decide. One, do you tell them all, tell them partial, or tell them nothing? Those are our three working theories, if I understand the conversation correctly.
It's a 1A, 2A situation. Do we
Yep.
tell him anything or nothing? And then if we do, my plan is to start with just the Pritchard memo we found,
Okay.
and see how he reacts. And then if that's like, and then if he's okay with that, I'm like, over the last couple of years, here are all the puzzle pieces we've been gathering and trying to fit together. And it seems like we're getting too close. That's why they shanked Pritchard's career. And then if he's on board with that, and then we pulled the ship out of the Genesis planet.
Okay.
I don't think we should hide the Genesis planet at all. I think we should simply wait long enough to find time for you to find time with him that does not feel like you're simply waiting for the appropriate time, that you're not rushing with the information, that you're waiting for the ability to share the information with him discreetly and in person.
And what of our suspicions of Ebony Knox?
We have to give, okay, if he is in fact working for Ebony Knox, which I would have before this, I would have been surprised that Vulcans could work against our interests beyond their nature of. Let me stop with that, but
yeah. And also remember that Vice Admiral Tovek is now commanding Aslan Station, and they've brought in and promoted Toreo of the the Natalie Panic to this unusual rank of fleet captain to command the task group. So
his XO is, what's the term that they used? He's definitely hiding something. But to the point that I was making, we have to give them, there's, even if the Ebony Knox is associated with the people here, they already have access to the schematics for the substate space weapon.
Heck, they have the ships we disabled and
Correct.
Starfleet intelligence took away.
So depending on whether, I mean, it does us no benefit or hindrance if they get it, but it is a problem if we hide it. So giving them that, it's less than a concern and more of an opportunity to see how he reacts.
And I see where you're going with it, and I like this. Because if I say we are concerned that elements in Starfleet intelligence are compromised because of what we've discovered previously and what happened after the Battle of Aslan Station, that may tip his hand. Okay. I think I know which path to go. And now, Commander, I'm going to have to ask you to do the hardest thing I've asked you to do in a long time. Is you're going to have to be able and willing and ready to disavow me if this goes sideways. And I run afoul of him. You're going to have to be able to step up and say I was in the wrong and take over the DC and continue with the mission. We both can't be standing on the branch and have it sawed off behind us.
So you can definitely pick up that your Andorian first officer is rationalizing it is in his head, but you can see that this is not something that he's comfortable with. But he seems to be, you can see the wheels turning in his head, that he's already doing the mental gymnastics to figure out how to approach that.
It's my hope it won't come to this, but if it does, I'm the captain. I'm the only one. Someone needs to remain to ensure the crew is safe and protected and that the mission is completed. So I wanted to give you this heads up to give you a chance to process and get your thoughts in order while I go and meet with the fleet captain. And then we'll convene after.
Sounds good.
All right. Dismissed, Commander.
So as I leave, I do stop There is one matter before more, but I'll wait until you get back.
Sounds good. I type into my computer system to request an urgent meeting with the fleet captain before we depart Aslan Station.
Okay. We'll get to his response after we handle Lacey's scene. Lacey, you have the information the ship has. A newcomer is about to be assigned to the ship in a couple of weeks. And what would you like to be working on during this general time frame?
There are two things that I would like to do. The first thing is I would like to see what I can find out about the more recent activities of this newcomer.
Okay.
And the other thing is, I think I have a season-long work track that
Yep.
I think I should probably work on at some point in the season.
This was the subspace transmutation study.
Yes.
It is a word track of 20. The difficulty is 2, and this has a resistance of 2. This is particularly difficult, but you do have, if I recall, you have at least one trait that assists with this endeavor. And I don't recall whether, I believe that's reducing the difficulty, not necessarily the resistance.
I have whenever you succeed at a task using reason or control as part of the extended task, you ignore any resistance on that extended task.
Okay, so that's your talent. I was referring to, I believe you had an Epsilon investigation trait, which was reducing the difficulty as well. It was built as a trait because that way it can be fluid among many different types of situations. So specifically, in this case, if you're investigating Epsilon species because of your extensive work, 2 seasons now for you, 3 seasons for the DC as a whole, on this particular threat, there's a lot of shared knowledge, shared information, experience, which is reducing your difficulty in dealing with these types of threats. Basically, you are going to have on this particular thing a reduction of 1 on the difficulty, and then because of your talent, you get to, according to whatever rules, I didn't catch that it costs you anything to spend. I think you just get it, if I'm correct. But
as long as you're using reason or control.
Yep. So as long as you do it the right way, then you have no resistance regardless. That would be where you are. Again, it's a work track of 20, which means your first breakthrough comes through at 10.
Okay. So I want to go for that. So does the trait reduce difficulty by 1?
Yes. So your difficulty is now 2.
Okay. And can I use the ship's computers or sensors to assist me on this?
Absolutely.
Okay. And I feel like I don't know if this would be a opportunity for me to use bold science because it is an interesting new thing, so maybe that could be bold, but it is also an epsilon, I think naturally makes things a little bolder than they are, but also we're doing this at a low in between.
So do remember bold comes into play if and when you spend threat to buy die. So I really appreciate like the narrative reasoning you're putting into it, but the talent itself kicks in anytime you buy an extra die with threat. In theory, you would only do threat in a boldish type thing, but as we've seen Mr. Tanari, he finds many ways to be very bold when doing things.
I aspire to be more like Tanari.
No.
In and of itself, a bold statement.
Okay, so I think I want to buy a dice with threat, and I want to really narratively, because it is related to Epsilon, perhaps that makes it a little extra bolder. All right.
Sounds good.
And
All
I'm
right, so
rolling a reason science, if that's okay.
That'll work.
And I rolled great first roll for this session, and it's gonna probably not be great later in the session because that's how it goes. But I rolled an 8, 3, and a 1.
Awesome.
Nice. So that should be 5
So-
successes.
Yeah, that's the way I count it. With a difficulty of 3, that gives you 3 momentum.
Okay.
Which tops you out at 6 momentum, if I'm counting correctly. Is that what you all have?
Yep.
All right, so you have 6 momentum, you have 5 threat, you have succeeded in the challenge. Dave, would you care to roll for the ship? See if we can get a 20 out of this yet?
I will certainly love to.
Especially since I don't super trust the ship all the time.
What am I rolling for the ship?
In this case, I would say you're doing...
Sensor science.
This is less about the scan. This is more about figuring out what it's going to do. So I'm going to say,
Computers.
yeah, computer science makes more sense to me.
So an 11 or
Okay.
less, Dave.
And I'm going to spend 2 threat to make that complication range a 19 and 20.
Reasonable, because 3 threat would be a Rick roll.
Pretty much. Oh, trust me. If you get a complication tonight, I'm singing. I might even go put on the duster so I can make it look really good too.
Get out the microphone, because I got a 19.
However, however, since threat was spent on a bold thing, you can re-roll that.
But Lacey did that, right? Not him?
It's in the dice pool.
Oh, it's in the dice pool. Okay. So I guess you get to reroll.
That is a 3.
Wait,
So you've got 2 more successes. There is a bonus 2 momentum that has to be spent as an immediate spend. You already have no resistance, so I'm guessing you just want to put that bonus 2 right into adding to the work track. Would that sound like what you're looking to do?
please.
Yeah. So your science is a 4, right?
Yes.
Okay. So base work is 4. Is this a brand new taskly or is this?
It is. This is the first 5 pieces of work on this task of 20, and you have 6 momentum to play with.
I like watching Joe's gears turn.
I was just trying to see if there's some way we could get to that 10 work breakthrough on this one roll, and I don't think so.
I don't think so. You can get another 3, but you're not going to get to 10. And I will say this is really the last bit of this denouement, so you might as well spend out of momentum unless you wanted to ask a question or do something else with it. It won't benefit you to save the momentum in this particular case.
Yeah, let's just dump it all to get the work track 5,
8.
6, 7, 8.
Sound good, Lacey?
That's perfect.
All right. You're
You're close. You can feel it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I have this like mad scientist start going on. My hair is starting to tingle.
At this point, you're basically collating a lot of data, looking at the studies, historical, other studies that may even be non-related, but basically any subspace interaction with bodies and see how they're mutated on a genetic level, on a DNA level, on all the levels that may come into play. So you get a great base of knowledge. Your breakthrough when you hit the 10 is going to be completing all of that work, where now you have all the knowledge to start the process of drawing conclusions.
Fleet captain scene.
You get a call in your ready room from the fleet captain's yeoman.
Yeah.
And the yeoman says, Captain Tobor, I understand you'd like a meeting to discuss matters with the fleet captain of some urgency.
Yes, that is correct, Yeoman.
Unfortunately, the fleet captain is presently dealing with some matters, let's just say cross-functional difficulties with residents of the station. I'd rather not go into detail.
Nor should you.
The fleet captain said, based on the tenor of your request, that it sounds important. If it has to be done in person and it is not immediately life-threatening, he will happily take that meeting with you after the conclusion of your scheduled patrol mission. He will, however, consider the fact that you attempted to do this beforehand and looks forward to discussing matters with you.
Very good. I do have a classified report on a isolinear chip that I would like to have hand delivered over to the captain and the fleet captain, such that we can be on similar pages when I return and we can have discussions. And if he feels it necessary to accelerate the timeline on the conversation, I will leave it to his discretion.
Send your courier, Captain, and we will be happy to receive that information. The captain is actually in his office, but he is in direct communication handling matters.
Very good.
Thank you, Captain.
Tobor out.
Aslan Station out.
And I tap the comm badge. Alana, can you have one of your security team courier a classified report chip over to the fleet captain's yeoman on the station?
Yes, sir. I'll send someone to your ready room right now.
All right. With that, security comes in. They take the information that is delivered without incident. And as they transport away from the transporter room, we get this little vignette of each of you carrying on with your day-to-day work with the weight of the missions that have come before and the missions that have yet to come on your shoulders. Thanks everybody for helping us do this denouement. I wanted to say a special thanks to my players. The cast here, for the audience listening, cares a lot about their characters, cares a lot about this game and the story that we are collectively weaving, such that there are times where as a GM, we're ready to move on to the next big set piece. And it takes great gamers, great players, great friends to sit and say, no, but there's a lot more. We're leaving a lot on the deck. Let's not do that today. So happy to be a part of not leaving good stuff on the deck. So thanks to everybody for joining us for this little vignette. And thank you everybody for participating. We don't always do it, but I'm going to give everybody the opportunity to say their salutations as we sign out. Let's give a start with our science officer.
Thanks, everybody. Really excited you're still listening. And until next time.
Dave?
Until next time, never going to give you up.
You're on
You're
mute.
muted, though.
I was on mute, yes. Take care, everyone.
And then I think I can speak for all the crew, cast and crew. Great thanks to both Lee and Josh for their flexibility and their willingness to make a superior gaming product, willing to roll up the sleeves and get their hands dirty in the messy, fun part. How, no GM plan ever survives contact with the players. And their ability to roll with the punches and the explosions that we throw in their way makes this an incredibly enjoyable endeavor to be a part of. So thank you all for listening, and big thanks to Lee and Josh.
You are most welcome. Thanks, everyone, for indulging us in the beautiful mess that is the actual play of Star Trek Preservations. Have a good night, all.